Members of the board, members of the public, and staff, I'd like to first ask our Director of Sustainable Streets, Tom McGuire, to come forward to recognize one of his outstanding recently retired employees.
Mr. McGuire.
Good afternoon, directors. I'd like to ask Angelina Washington to join me up here. Angelina Washington started her career with the MTA's Proof of Payment Unit in March of 2008. In her 10 years with the POP unit, she was a dedicated employee, liked and respected by her colleagues and others. In fact, one of her most senior colleagues just referred to her as the soul of the POP unit. She's a kind and generous personality that was always on display in all of her interactions with her coworkers. She was known for giving out Christmas cards every year to everyone in the unit, and even before she retired in June, she apparently bought a box of cards, which I think are going to be distributed this year, so she was planning ahead, as she always did. Really consistent in the way she treated everybody with respect and courtesy, both inside and outside the agency, and that's absolutely the model that we want all of our public-facing employees, even in a stressing job like POP, to be able to do, to show. Calm demeanor and professional attitude that she showed de-escalated many potentially volatile situations to the benefit of herself, the public, and her coworkers. She was dedicated to the unit. She came to work rain or shine, carried out her duties without hesitation, and contributed so many positive ideas and impacted real positive change within the Proof of Payment Unit. And we would like to recognize Angelina Washington for her outstanding service and dedication to the city and the Proof of Payment Unit.
Ms. Washington, thank you so much for your years of service to the agency. And I understand that you have, in addition to your husband here to watch you receive this honor, you have a lot of coworkers. Would you all like to stand so we can see? Oh, fabulous. Thank you so much on behalf of this board and the agency, and indeed the entire city and all the riders of our system. Thank you so much for the work that you do. It's such an important job, and I know it's not one of the easiest jobs out there, so thank you for your years of service. And would you like to say anything?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very thankful and grateful for this award. In behalf of my family, my co-workers, I'm grateful for this award, and this is for all of you. Thank you.
So I also, you'll recall at the last meeting, we said farewell to our outgoing CFO. I don't recall her name, but wanted to take this opportunity to introduce our new CFO and Director of Finance and Information Technology. Leo Levinson started with us a week ago. Wow. He has a couple of decades of experience with various city agencies, including a couple of stints with the Controller's Office. So he comes with a wide array of knowledge and experience here with the city, knows the various players in the city, and we're therefore giving him no honeymoon, and he's already jumped fully in. But I just wanted to, since this is one of the more important positions in the agency, wanted an opportunity to introduce him to you and perhaps invite him up to say a few words.
Good, thank you. Mr. Levinson, very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you, Ed. I've been here for 1 week now. I've met a number of you in some of the meetings during that first week, and I just want to say how excited I am to be working with the SFMTA. I've been extremely impressed by the people I have met there and the importance of the mission of this agency. And I'm committed to doing everything I can within finance and information technology to support the service that we're providing to the public while doing it in an accountable and transparent way. And so I'm just very, very excited to have this opportunity.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much, and welcome on board.
Thank you.
So just a few other items to note. One of the first things that Leo's going to be working on is to figure out how to spend some money that we weren't anticipating. You may have heard that our city controller, Ben Rosenfield, announced last week that the city will recognize about $415 million of unanticipated property tax revenues, of which about 181 will be available to spend for the general fund. The reason for the delta is because there are a number of set-asides in the charter that direct general city revenues to go to specific uses. One of those uses is to come to the MTA. So about $38 million of those unexpected revenues will be coming our way. So we will be exploring various capital needs that we have that are not funded that might be good uses for this money. We will be treating this as one-time funding. It's possible because of there's some uncertainty in terms of whether there will be future such funding. So we to be conservative, we'll assume that it is one time. To the extent we do want to expend any of this money, it will require a supplemental appropriation from the Board of Supervisors because this was not anticipated. But we will be bringing you at the next meeting our 5-year, $3 billion capital improvement program. That's already more or less done, so there probably won't be time to add in this $38 million, but it will provide kind of a reference point for a discussion on how we would recommend using those funds. So good news for the city and good news for the agency there that I wanted to share with you. With regard to Vision Zero, wanted you and particularly the public to know that for the 19th consecutive year, the MTA will offer free Muni service on New Year's Eve. This, as we do every year, goes from 8 p.m. on the 31st till 5 a.m. on January 1st. And this is, I put this within the Vision Zero update because obviously we want people to get around safely on New Year's Eve, so giving everybody an opportunity to do so on Muni is very much in line with Vision Zero. Also wanted to let you know that we've continued to work on the update to the Vision Zero action strategy. I think I reported to you previously, we've done various types of community outreach. We did coffee talk sessions in each of the 11 supervisor districts and are gathering a lot of feedback towards getting that revised plan back before you in March of 2019. What we're hearing so far is that many of our programs, such as Safe Routes to School, Safe Routes to Seniors, the high visibility enforcement work with the police department, and of course improving the streets on the high injury network, all seem to have very strong support. So I'm sure that will come through, and we are on track to bring that strategy to you in March. Shifting gears, update on the Central Subway, kind of a technical update. As you know, the Central Subway, as we've been saying for the last year or so, is on track to commence service in December 2019, a year from now. And we continue to be on track. For a while, the schedule was slipping, but it's been holding for, I'd say, the last year or so. However, our full funding grant agreement with the federal government has the original start of service date, which is December 2018. So we need to formally request from the federal government a revision to the grant agreement to reflect our current projected revenue service date. And what they're asking us to do, and I think is a reasonable thing to do, is include some schedule contingency into that revised date. Because while we remain confident that we can meet December 2019 and are committed to do so, there are certainly risks to the schedule as we finish up the hard construction, finish up all the systems construction, integrate the systems, do all the startup and testing. So we will be submitting a letter to the FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, indicating that we are on track for a December 2019 start, but also asking for 6 months of schedule contingency, which would, within the grant agreement, put a revenue date of May of 2020, but we will remain fully committed to keep to the December 2019 date. This is something we've been working with the FTA on, so there's no surprise here, but it's a step we need to take because our current grant agreement will soon be out of date. So just wanted to let you know that in case you heard about it. Another thing you may have already heard about is a congestion pricing study that our sister agency, the County Transportation Authority, will be undertaking. You may recall one of the action items in our strategic plan is to coordinate with city partners to advance a congestion pricing framework. And recently, the Transportation Authority Commission has directed their staff to undertake a pricing study update. They did a pricing study back in, I think it was 2010. So they have been directed to update that work. A lot has happened since then. A lot has changed here. There's a lot of experience that people have gained elsewhere. So currently, the scope, schedule, and budget for this undertaking, they were actually bringing that to the TA Commission today, this morning. The study will look at alternative scenarios of congestion charges, subsidies, discounts, incentives, and multimodal improvements. There's a lot of different ways to do pricing in terms of the geography that it covers, the times that it covers, how it's implemented, what exemptions there are, to the extent it generates revenues, what the revenues are used for. So a lot of different parameters. So this study will look at different scenarios and then evaluate the scenarios relative to metrics such as congestion and equity and impact to transit. They're expecting about 1.5 years to do the study, which we will work with them on, so that would make it ready in spring of 2020. There will be significant community engagement. Obviously, this is something that lots of folks in the public will be very interested in, so the TA is committed, and we will support them in any way we can to make sure there's broad-based community engagement and feedback. And we will give you periodic updates on the progress as it moves forward. But I think it's a good and important step for the city to be taking. Few more things. One piece of not so good news. We have been doing construction work on 3rd Street in Mission Bay to construct a new T-line platform. We did a weekend shutdown, I think the previous weekend, planned shutdown where we had buses running instead of trains. We did the same this past weekend. However, the work this past weekend, though we believed that we had a good plan and adequate schedule and contingency on that schedule, had a number of issues happen that have delayed the work until today. So we were planning to have the work done late Sunday night, early Monday morning in time for the start of service so that we could go back to train service on 3rd Street. But for a number of reasons, including the heavy period of rain that kept us from being able to compact the soil, some delays in getting concrete, some extended time required to form the structural work that was going inside the concrete, as well as some manpower issues. That just really a perfect storm of things have created a delay. So we had to continue the bus service. We increased the bus service because it's a weekday versus a weekend for yesterday and today. The work is now substantially complete, so we fully expect to be back in regular service tomorrow, but we're very sorry to the riders who were inconvenienced. It's obviously not as good a service as we have with the rail. We are doing everything we can to mitigate that. We did what we could to provide information and to make sure that we had a good service for people to get up and down the 3rd Street corridor. Should be back in regular service tomorrow. It will give us an opportunity to do another and very thorough look of the plans for this project, because we have a bigger shutdown planned for the new year. So we want to see what lessons learned there may have been from this one, which did not go as planned, and see what adjustments, if any, that we need to make for the shutdown that is planned currently for January. So apologies to riders for that inconvenience. Or certainly doing everything we can to get the service back tomorrow and make sure that we don't have any other unplanned loss of service. Two more quick things. One, just to remind you, this is something that was approved as part of the last 2-year budget, but beginning January 1st, as part of the board's automatic fare indexing policy, there will be small increases to the 1- and 3-day passports, which will increase by $1, and the 7-day passport will be going up by $2, though that's only for people paying with cash. You'll recall with this last budget, we created a new, much lower cost, I think essentially a half price category for folks using Munimobile or a Clipper card, and we'll be holding those fares steady. So only the cash fares will be going up. And it does seem that it's been effective in terms of trying to encourage people to move to Munimobile or Clipper. This was also part of the discussion we had with you in directing us to eventually move cash out of the cable car system. So I would say it's off to a good start. Mobile ticketing overall has had a 5% increase sales on a month-over-month basis, and single ride fares by 10% increase. One-day passes increasing by 17%. More impressively, from this year to last year, we've had 135% increase in sales for all of electronic payments. So for Unimobile and for the Clipper card, I think that's on the cable car or for these passports. So the price signals are working, but just wanted a reminder to you that the cash prices will be going up January 1st on those 3 products. And then finally, while lots of folks were out shopping and hopefully generating sales tax here in San Francisco on the day after Thanksgiving, we had a number of SFMTA employees out working to make sure that people could get around safely and that traffic would flow and people could cross the street safely. We had well over 100 parking control officers who were out that day working hard to make sure that people could be safe. I haven't heard the numbers in terms of retail sales in the city. I hope they were good, but we had a lot of folks out there working hard that day, so I just wanted to thank them for their good work to make that a good and safe and hopefully lucrative day for the people of the city. And that concludes my report.